want you to experience some of them, because in that is the angst of, why does this work? Did I need more time? Did I need less time? Was this too vulnerable? So I'm intentionally, we're not going to do cheesy things, but when we do really meaningful openers and you experience them, put on the experience hat, but then take it off and put on your reflection hat of, how does this work when I'm executing it in my role to benefit the people that I lead and serve? So first question for you is on screen as you were coming in. What are your training pet peeves? You can focus on the opening because that's what we're talking about, or you can focus on anything you want. In general, in a workshop, what are a couple of your pet peeves? So I'm going to give you a very short amount of time, but I want you to chat with the person next to you. Make sure you know them. Share your pet peeves. However, this is also to test how I bring you back. So when it's time to come back, I'm going to say, we're coming back in 5, 4, 3. And it's not to be condescending. It's because I want to let you finish that pet peeve, but not explain the next one. So I'll count down slowly, and if I get to 0 and you're still having the time of your life conversation, you've failed me. So I'll count down, let you finish your thought, and you're going to come back with me at 0. Before we have this conversation, welcome to our virtual audience and attendees. There's a whole group of people learning online right now with us in the room. So if you're online, post this in the chat. And don't just post your idea, reciprocate by reading other people and asking follow-up questions. What do you mean by that? Why is that frustrating for you? What do you do instead? So even if you're in the chat, you're going to have a good conversation, and then I'll bring everybody back in about a minute or so. Okay, chat about your pet peeves. All right, we're coming back in 5. Finish that thought in 4. Wrapping it up in 3. Almost done talking in 2. 1.5. Amazing. Okay, I'm going to give you 60 more seconds. I know you could talk about this forever. I could just leave the room right now and you're like, let's just hash out all the things that drive us bananas. And then we can figure out how to do them differently. Will you have one more quick conversation about why those things exist? Pick one of your pet peeves and dig into the psychology or the physical barriers behind why does that happen. So this is going to be an even shorter one. That was 2 minutes. I'm going to give you 1 minute. If you're in a pair, that means 30 seconds each. Why does that peeve happen? Go. We're coming back in 5, 4. Wrap up the thought in 3, 2. Y'all are amazing. I almost always have to do like 0.75, 0.25, because thank you for that. You know, our time is precious. We're going to maximize every minute. Already, I hope that you feel when you have something interesting to talk about, that was 2 minutes the first time, 1 minute the next time, your reflection hat is on. Was that too much? Was that not nearly enough? So as you're thinking of giving people empowering questions to start off your workshops, consider the timing that it takes. When you're the person facilitating, it's really easy to get bored because you're not engaged in the conversation. So you will constantly see me checking my phone, and it's so that I don't interrupt you too quickly, even though I'm trying to pace us pretty quickly. So make sure you're ready for your timers to be set if you are giving people something interesting to talk about. I'm going to share my couple of pet peeves. My first one is, if you start with your resume, I'm out. Like, I'm out. I'm at the door. I'm standing at the back. I'm sitting near Randy, who I met when I first came in, and he's like got that sweet spot at the back with the perfect view, but the sweet exit if you need it, you know? And like, if you start with your resume, I'm out. And I'm out because it's selfish. You're doing it thinking that you're trying to build credibility, but what you're actually doing is talking about yourself, and usually in a really boring way. I can go to LinkedIn, I can read your bio, I can read your work history. So exceptional trainers and facilitators, when they open, They know throughout the workshop, if they want to, they can weave in stories about that cool company that they worked with, or that one neat thing that they did, or this story about their kiddo. They don't need to tell you up front with the slide deck of their family and their resume. And I think it happens because we're afraid people won't think we're credible if we don't tell them how awesome we are. Or we don't know another way. So we just stand up and start talking about ourselves. So we're gonna make sure we have better ways to start than our resume. My other opening pet peeve that I'm gonna try to eradicate from everyone in this room that will no longer be in our practice is when you ask something far too vulnerable, one end of the spectrum. What's the hardest thing you've had happen in your life? Nope, I'm out. I just met these people. Or you go to the other end of the spectrum, you're like, let's play bingo. Find somebody else who's traveled to a different state. No, I don't care. I don't care. That's why we're all here. We don't care. We don't want to play like bingo to meet random people that we're never going to talk to again after we leave this workshop. And then 15 minutes later, did I just get a woo? Yes, no more bingo. So if it's just for fun, then this whole workshop should be called like, let's just have fun. And that's not usually what people are coming for when they come to learn with us. And then if it's super vulnerable, it's not gonna work, because my metaphor in my mind is that people are kind of like water and we come in at different temperatures. So you can't throw everybody into a conversation thinking they're all this rolling boil, ready to just go. Some people are ice cold, and that is okay. That's how they're walking in. You have to give everybody space to warm up to that thing, whatever the conversation needs to be, without it being too deep, too fast. So, empowering question is your first of 10 reusable strategies, and it is as simple as have something interesting for people to talk about that's not cheesy and not way vulnerable. I just asked you what your pet peeves were, empowered you. You already have great answers. You don't necessarily need my list of 10. You could make your own easily. So you ask them something and honor the experience and the knowledge that's in the room. A couple more just examples of how I do this. A question, I might say, what are your 3 to 5 tips for blank? We're talking about communication. What are your tips for communication? We're talking about my favorite keynote is the power of questions. What are your favorite tips when it comes to questions? We're talking about leadership. Any big, broad conversation, people have ideas and input, and you let them think about it and talk about it before you give yours. Now we're meeting together as learners instead of me imparting all my wisdom to you. Cool. I have my newest favorite keynote is Better Words for a Better Culture. And I open with 2 slides rotating before we sit down. And one is just, is there a word that you hate that like gets you cringy? Like I know someone that hates the word commode. So this is on screen for them to think about, because we're going to talk about our word choice in that session. And the other one that it rotates through is there one word that would save the world, that would change the world? One phrase, one word. So we went from kind of silly to a little bit deeper. And you can choose what you're thinking about. When you do an empowering question, if you put them in auto rotation, which everything can do, Canva, Google Slides, PowerPoint, you all know that. Auto rotate those opening slides, then people have time to ponder. Some people love to just talk about it without having their answer, but plenty of people need to be reflective, internally processing before they want to have even that pet peeves conversation. So if you can give them some time while the slides are rotating, and then also open with that when it's go time, their conversations will be richer and more efficient because they've had a little bit of space to think about it. So this is the only gonna give, but internally processing before they want to have even that pet peeves conversation. So if you can give them some time while the slides are rotating, and then also open with that when it's go time, their conversations will be richer and more efficient because they've had a little bit of space to think about it. So this is the only plug I'm going to give, but as trainers and facilitators, we're a community, and I don't know Chad. I've met him online and had digital conversations with him, but Chad Littlefield has these amazing cards that I can't resist telling you about. His company is We Connect, but he also has, just on Amazon, you can look up Chad Littlefield name tags or Rich Neck name tags. There's a set of 6, and what you can do is set these out for people. If there were not hundreds of you, I would have brought some for you and put them on your tables. But you pick your prompt, and you put your answer, and then your name goes underneath it. And I love doing these in longer workshops with an opening, empowering question. So as you come in, you're picking your name tag, you're being thoughtful, and you're going to wear that. And you've got something related to our topic that we're talking about in the workshop on screen to think about and discuss. So then the beauty happens when you're meeting somebody and you've talked about your pet peeves, and then you run out of things to say and there's still 30 seconds left, and you're like, this is about to get awkward. I already know where you're from, I know where you work, I know your name, and we talked about the thing on screen. And then you just get stuck. But if their name tag says, I wish I had more time to travel, then you have this automatic opening to say, where are you hoping to travel? And now you can keep connecting and have a conversation. So there's no expectation. It just creates space for interesting conversations if people get stuck in the silence. All right, your second strategy. We're going to do the strategy and then I'll name it. So will you just jot down or reflect if you don't want to write it? For you, this will be successful if. Pretend you just walked into this workshop. We're starting right now, and you simply have to finish this future-focused prompt. Ditch the icebreakers will be worthwhile or successful for you if there are pens still moving. There are plenty of faces that are looking up. But in that span of time, that 30 seconds or so, some people immediately knew, one new strategy. And some people are still thinking and writing. So when you're facilitating something simple, like a future-focused reflection prompt as your very first opening, when you do that, make sure you give people a moment and you watch when pens stop moving. A third strategy related to your future-focused prompt is to do sticky notes that people put on the wall. And I know many of us as facilitators are used to this. I love opening with a couple of sticky note prompts. If you tell people your future-focused prompt, that second strategy might be one of them, and they're going to put those sticky notes on the wall over there. And then you also ask them, I want you to have a second sticky note of something you already know about this, like a strategy, a tip, an insight, and they're going to put that over in another section on the wall. And then you create space for the cringe, for the things that they're wrestling with. Ask for a sticky note of the challenge they're facing related to this topic, a concern they have related to this topic, and let them put that up as well. Beautiful, because it sets their mind to the positive and to the things that are real right now on their mind, and it airs that for the room, but most importantly, it airs it for me, the facilitator, for you, the facilitator. So during a break or an activity where they're doing something meaningful and I am not involved in that conversation, I get to go read the things that people are trying to get out of this session. And I get to go read the real concerns and questions they have, and now I know if we have any of those left at the end of the session, we've missed the mark. So you can pivot and acknowledge those sticky notes, and all they needed was maybe a minute or so for each thought, and then a couple minutes to get up and bring them back. Not bring them back, bring themselves back. So, but I don't, personally, I don't have people put their names on it. I was gonna run you a mic, but I could hear that one. For our virtual people, if they didn't, you asked if their names are on a sticky. I think it depends on the dynamics of the group and the scenario. Usually I am able to build the trust in the room that I can say, I see this sticky note that says, we're concerned about team cohesion with this new platform that we're rolling out. We are not on board and we're about to be divided. I can call it out anonymously to the room when I read that and say, y'all, this is real. Let's talk about some of the barriers. Let's talk about some of the beliefs. And often that person will say, yeah, that was mine. Super concerned about it. But if they don't want to, we can still wrestle with the mess without it having to be owned by that person. So personally, no names on the sticky notes, but I'll usually give them an opportunity to own it if they want to. Thank you for that question. Okay, so sticky notes, strategy number 3, really simple. You can change what's on them based on the content of your workshop. but giving them a little bit of time to ponder. And if you don't already love this phrase as a trainer, the old adage, when your butt goes numb, your brain goes dumb. It's real, y'all are already like, I've been sitting here for 8 minutes and my butt is numb, get me up. So putting their Post-its up on a wall, as simple as that is, does something. They're reflective, they're owning it, they're able to air the concerns, and they had to get up and move, and now their blood's flowing and their oxygen is flowing. All right, you should have a 4x6 blank note card, except my virtual friends who are going to do this a different way in a moment, so stick with me. If you've got one of these, I want you to experience this. These are quite possibly my favorite strategy of all time, which is a bold statement. On your note card in a moment, you're going to put 3 things. You're going to put 3 things that are unique and true about you, but they get progressively more specific. So I'll give you some examples. If you're like feeling a little stressed out about this, don't worry. I'll give you examples. But the first thing in a moment, I'm going to have everybody stand. And when we read the first item, if that's true of people, they'll stay standing. So like my card might say, this is my first trip to DC. So a lot of people, that would be true for them also. So they would stay standing, but some people would sit down because they've been to DC before. So I'm thinking of my first item, it's true about me. I'm guessing it's also true for a lot of other people. Then the second one, I'm thinking it's less common, but there's still people in the room that's also true. And then the third one, maybe number 2, I would put, we have a lot of plants in our home. They're not mine, my husband's amazing, and it's like a gorgeous greenhouse inside of our house. I would kill all of them if he went out of town. But I might just put number 2, many plants in-house. Or inside my house looks like a greenhouse, because I think I'm probably not the only one, but there's not everybody who has that. And then the last thing that I would write on there is something true about me, but I'm guessing I'm the only one in the room. So I might put something like obsessed with Trader Joe's organizational development design. Like, so obsessed. We can talk for hours after this if you want to. But I'm guessing I'm the only weirdo that loves Trader Joe's for more than just their amazing store and food. So you're writing those 3 things. If you have the card, the request is that you write pretty ginormous and not scripty cursive. I have a vision disability, and it helps me when I'm able to read your card, and if it's scripty and small, I will throw it away. Try to avoid politics and religion, because this is probably not the space for those conversations on this note card with hundreds of people you don't know. Those are beautiful conversations, just maybe not in this. So just some ideas as you're thinking, and I'm only going to give you a couple minutes to do this at most. You're going to write them pretty fast and not overthink it. But you can come up with experiences. I had somebody write once that they met Bruno Mars when he was 5. Somebody put that they were in the high school marching band. Somebody else put that they were in the military band. Experiences you've had in your life. You had to unpack your luggage at the airport because you had too much stuff and it was too heavy. Not that happened to me, but maybe that happened to you as a recent experience. Habits, hobbies, you got the idea. I'll leave this on screen for you. 3 things that get progressively more unique. When you have them, somebody's butt is numb at your table. So you're gonna have a runner for your table, come bring them up to me. I'm gonna put a 2-minute clock on screen. In 2 minutes, I should have all of your cards. My virtual friends, you have a QR code at this top right corner, so you can submit your 3 in that form. Okay, we're gonna experience your unique me cards. So if you're in the room, I'll walk you through this, but virtually, instead of standing up, you're gonna turn your camera, let me make sure I do this right, it's off or on, and the idea is the last person will have their camera still on and everybody would turn their camera off. So here we go, stand up, please, everyone on your feet, because your butts are numb, your brains are dumb. We're gonna do this, it'll take 15 seconds. Stay standing if you enjoy hiking. Of those still standing, or online, of those who still have their camera on, Remain standing and keep your camera on if you've lived in a town above 9,000 feet. We lost some. We lost a lot, but not all. No shame if some of you were like, I have no idea the elevation of my town, therefore I'm going to sit down. Of those still standing, the few still standing and those with their cameras still on, remain standing if you have sung at Carnegie Hall. Yes! Will you run for the mic, pin the mic? I can't see, there's real bright lights. Whoever is standing, the mic, and they're going to introduce themselves to us just very quickly, like name.
The light, that was so good. Where are they standing? Okay.
Way at the back, just to make it difficult. You're going to share your name with us just very briefly. Tell us a Carnegie Hall story, but you have 30 seconds, not a whole book. And then one pet peeve that you shared at the very beginning.
All right.
Ooh, or sing for us. That was an amazing suggestion.
Hi. So my Carnegie Hall story is that I was part of a middle school children's choir who was selected to sing at Carnegie Hall. But it's like my favorite fun fact because it sounds very impressive. But you know, I was quite young, so I'm not that great of a singer. I missed the second part of the question. Pet peeve. Oh, the pet peeve I shared. I came in late. I'm so sorry. Pet peeve of icebreakers.
You can pass. If you came in late and you were like confused by the question, it's okay to say pass. Always in every workshop you can play or pass.
Oh,
but I feel like maybe we need a song or a note instead.
Absolutely not. I will say pass.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, we're gonna do another part then. On your feet, one more. Oh, this is not the one I thought. Okay. Remain standing. Stay standing. Keep your camera on. If this is your first time in DC. Of those still standing and those with their camera still on, keep your camera on or remain standing if you are left-handed. You're not alone. There was a whoop up here. Of those still standing with their camera on, remain standing if you have been an extra on TV.
All right.
All right. Yes.
Hello. I also was late, so I didn't have a pet peeve, but I'm sure that would be my pet peeve is being late. My extras journey in Atlanta, there's a lot of casting happening. I saw some ads on Facebook and I was on the Vampire Diaries for like 10 episodes. Woo, yeah. I got to meet like Kevin Bacon, Val Kilmer, rest in peace, he's a really nice guy. I met Alex Pettifire, it was fun. Ian Somerhalder knew my name, it was cool. So yeah.
All right, y'all, so coming up with it, like some nuances of these cards. When you just tell people cold that they have to come up with 3 things about themselves, they get confused because they'll come up with really like intimate things or they don't understand it's going to be shared and we're going to do this like who's with me, who's not situation. So without a lot of prep early on, I used this with a small group and somebody had a very specific religious thing. Like, I thought, I am not about to have people sit down if you don't believe this person is the most important figure in the world. Like, we're going to have problems in this room if we start talking politics and religion. Also, sometimes people get maybe more vulnerable than they meant to. So anytime you can give a couple of examples, if it's your card that you're sharing with the room or that you explain, we're going to stand up and sit down and you might be the last one standing, that helps people with the card and it alleviates some of the like, I have to have these things be really incredible, which they both were on their most unique one, but it can just be that you like to drink a lot of water. The goal of these is anytime during your experience with these this group of learners at that moment, you can say, we've been sitting for a long time, everybody on your feet. And it takes about 30 seconds for you to pull a card, transitioning between topics or slides or activities. And everybody's standing and you're handing the mic to someone else in the room. Everybody gets to see them and see that they're amazing. They get to share about themselves. It takes almost no time. If we were going to be together for a couple of days for an experience like a workshop or cohort that was longer, I'd keep those cards and I'd pull them out. We do a collaborative leadership cohort in my city, and we keep the cards for that cohort throughout the year. So different facilitators keep pulling cards. And then I love it because sometimes you ask a question and you know everyone in the room has insight, but they're just like, it's too vulnerable to raise their hand and say, I'll share my answer. So this is also a cool way to ask for a volunteer to share their insight because they're already standing up with the microphone. So then you say, well, do you have a favorite workshop opener, or what's your pet peeve, or what leadership tip would you get, or where do you think we're going to get stuck on this topic? And give them the space to pass, but often they don't mind being called on because it was for something fun. So this, you do the first part at the very beginning, setting them up for using it throughout the rest of the time together. Every time I use this strategy, it is 50% of the people's favorite thing from the workshop. I'm like, you didn't love the content? We didn't change your life with leadership and communication and all that? No, they liked the card thing. Every time, more than half, that's their favorite thing. And it's because they're moving and it's not about me. They get to see each other, connect, see what they have in common, and then move on. So, all right. This one I'm not going to ask you to participate in. I think many of you probably do this, and I did not know if there would be 5 people or 500, so I wasn't about to buy poster papers and stick them up all around and buy dot stickers for everybody, and then there's 5 people here. So anytime you've got a big group and you want to just gauge who's in the room, you can do this digitally, but again, for the movement, I like to do it with real things. Give everybody some dot stickers and have some posters up, and they might be things like the topic they're most interested in talking about, because you have 5 subtopics you could lean into for that workshop, and if all of them are super excited about one, now you know where you need to spend the most time. So where they're voting, potentially with those stickers. They might also just be saying who they are. So years of experience in your current role, less than a year, 1 to 5, up to 10, and you can see the spread of experience, or distance traveled. So some of those interesting kind of demographic questions gives everybody a chance to see what's happening in the room collectively, and or vote on what they'd like to have the topic be leaned into instead of just doing the scripted slides that presenter had. I think there might be too many people for this one. We can do it? I heard we can do it. Ooh, okay. If you choose to pass and you stay in your seat, all the people who are up will probably judge you a little bit. But we won't say anything. No, we won't do that at all. You can scooch your chair in so people can get by you. This is going to be really interesting. I have not done this in a group this size that the tables are this size. I've totally done it with this many people, but the tables are a little tight. So the idea with our continuum is that you are not one thing or the other. You might be many things and fall in different places along that continuum. So I often use this at the very beginning of something like, I'm a working genius certified facilitator, and so when I'm doing it, people think it's a personality test. It's not. It's about project management and team conversations related to work, and it's different than personality tests. So we would do some things on the continuum related to that topic. So for this, we're going to do just 3 prompts, and the idea is, I'll say if you're all the way over by our AV, which is your left side of the room, or if you're all the way over on this far wall on your right, and you get to stand anywhere in the span of the room that you want. So the first prompt, and you don't have to be up front, let's do that. You can be, you're just moving side to side, so pushing your chairs in. How many of you are willing to play? This is the best! Okay. All right. When you go to a workshop, if you're on this side, you are the boiling water of joy that's I will talk to anybody, and I would like to hear their life story, and I would like to tell them mine, and I am just vulnerability is not even a word. Let's go. I can be vulnerable with a stranger, and if you're over here, you're hell no. I'm not telling you my life story and I don't want to know yours. It's probably going to take a year before we're friends, and then I might open up to you. Where do you fall on the vulnerability in a workshop spectrum? Very vulnerable to your left, not vulnerable to your right. For those in the virtual audience, I want you to do a fist to 5 instead. So while the room is moving here, if you are online, let's see if I can give you a slide so you see it. So for those online, a 5 is like, oh, so vulnerable. A 0 is like, heck no, I won't talk to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's kind of your continuum. Amazing. Okay, a lot of chatty, amazing, open, and a lot of strong, self-aware. I am not ready for that. Please don't make me move and sit by somebody else. Here's what's cool about this. You might not be able to see the room and the spread. We're not all standing in the same place. That's why most of us hate icebreakers. Because we assume, oh, they're all like this. Oh, they're all like this. We have to make space for everybody to warm up and be at the table. Very good. Okay, we're going to do one about personality tests. On this, we're going to switch it. On this far right wall where our not so vulnerable immediately people are. If you're on that wall, you love personality tests. Like you want a tattoo of your Enneagram and your colors and your disc letters, like you love it. And on this side, you're like, burn them from the earth. They label people and I hate them for all the reasons they're terrible. Personality tests, where do you fall? Same thing for our virtual audience. The 5 is you love them. The fist is you hate them. Put that in the chat. Ooh. This is why we do the continuum. Thank you for being an unofficial plant right there. That was amazing. When you let people do this, they get to see each other, they get to reflect for themselves, but also we're opening up the conversation, right? If this was a Working Genius or any other assessment kind of session, this lets you say, hey, I wonder what makes them want to stand there. I wonder what they like about it. So when people come back to their tables, my questions at that exact next moment is, who loved it and wants the tattoo? Will you tell us a couple reasons why? Okay, if you hated it, talk about the barriers, talk about the cons. And we have an amazing discussion where we get to see each other and say both exist. It does do that good thing, it does have that bad thing. And we're not just saying, y'all, we're doing this whether you like it or not. We're having a good conversation about it. And the people in the middle usually are able to be like, I actually saw that, but I used to feel that way, but they've got stories to tell too. So, okay, thank you for playing the game. You can head back. As you're settling in, I'll give you a couple quick tips related to the continuum. If you've got a room that can accommodate this, I've learned that it helps to tell people to do the continuum on a bit of a U. And the reason that that helps is then your ends can see each other. So if you've got 20 or 40 or 100 people and they can kind of line and curve the line, then they have a better perspective instead of just taking their stand and they have no idea what the distribution looks like. Our online friends did fist to 5, which we often use as facilitators in like just a quick check on where people are at. It does help to say on your mark, get set, go when you do fist to 5, because otherwise everybody's a 5 and you feel bad if you're the fist. But when you do fist to 5, you're telling people 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. They don't have to be one thing or the other. They can be anywhere on that 0 to 5 ratio. And I love fist to 5 because you can literally do the like, no, I don't want you. The fist is not just a 0. It's like, I'm mad about it. So there's emotion in your fist to 5 voting, and it works well virtually that you can put that in the chat. One more quick insight about the continuum. Don't just do it for fun. Don't do like introvert, extrovert, beach or mountain, Italian food or Mexican food. Like, don't just do it for fun because then it's a bingo card. It's fine if you want to do one or two of those so people understand how do you feel about going on vacation with an itinerary versus just let it happen. There should never be an itinerary on vacation. And then people can appreciate that we're all kind of in different places on the continuum. Now we're going to get to a couple that connect to the topic we're talking about. Don't just use it for fun. All right, your next strategy is creating a metaphor. So training, exceptional, extraordinary, epic training, the absolute best workshop you can imagine is like blank. If you're courageous enough, would you raise your hand if you're like kind of drawing a blank and just really a little bit stuck? You do not have creative juices flowing right now. Anybody bold enough? Thank you for the courageous hand. Usually it's more. And I'm wondering if you're just trying really hard to come up with it. Hold metaphors like this, people need more time. Because you're truly having to like, what is it about exceptional training? What's something else in the world that I can tie it to, and why? So if you do it empty like this, just they have to build it from scratch, you've got to plan for a lot of time for people ahead of time. That's on your opening slide, and that's like 5 minutes of independent and or table conversation where they're creating a metaphor, minimum. It sometimes helps if you give them examples to choose from, especially if it's at the beginning of a workshop and they haven't been thinking about it. So you might say like, pick one of these and create a metaphor related to training. So training is like a forest because, training is like a computer because, training is like Mayan ruins because, or training is like a water park because. So I've given you the metaphor, you have to create the meaning from it. When you do that, you're gonna still need to give people time, right? Like you don't all just naturally have a water park answer immediately. Some of you do, you're fast inventors, but people need some time with that. So even when you give them a prompt, plan that time, put your timer on. You know, I could just leave you here for 15 minutes and you would like, our creatives in the room are gonna draw a bunch more metaphors. At the end of workshops, I like to use the same strategy, but with photo cards that are set out, kind of like you brought me these amazing, unique me cards. I'll set out photos of a bunch of random things. We've been talking about leadership all day long. We've been talking about how we communicate for 2 hours. Pick your metaphor. Inspired from any of the cards, pick your metaphor and then describe for us, communication is like this brick wall because. So they get to find their image and create it, and then they get to take it with them. So they might say, our team is like this rock, this balanced rock because, and then they're telling the team what they got from today. So using images and metaphors is huge. You're creating higher level thinking, symbolic thinking, and the visual is what makes it stick, but it does take people some time to come up with it. All right, choose your quote. Love starting workshops with this when they're a little bit smaller than ours is, and you have big quotes posted around the room related to your topic, and people stand by the one that resonates with them the most. They might like all of them, but they pick the one they're going to stand by, and they're chatting with the people standing there about why they picked that quote and what they like about it. If you don't want to create the posters and have them up and moving, which is ideal, and you still want to do something similar, you can give them just a piece of paper. So I have a list of quotes on conflict that I'll use in a conflict workshop. I have a list of quotes on trust that we'll use in a trust workshop. A list of quotes on leadership from different people. And we'll do something with them. Sometimes it's stand up and find the people who also love that same quote. Sometimes it's making a really big circle and you step in when, let's say, my friend Keith reads quote number 3, says, this is the one I love the most. It really resonates with me. Everybody else who also picked that quote steps into our circle. And Keith can be like, yeah, what did you like about it? Okay, cool. And then we all step back and somebody else can pick their favorite quote and lean in. So you're up and moving, you're connecting to the content. So whether they're posters, just a piece of paper at the table, or an actual activity like an agreement circle, giving people quotes lets people think about the content without you having to tell them. I could not find a way to do this that looked pretty digitally, so I am sorry for the text intense screen, but I want you to feel what it's like. If I gave you only just 5 quotes and I said, pick the one that resonates with you and think of what about it ties to training. Why is that one meaningful to you today? I'm going to give you about a minute or so, and I want you to feel what 1 minute of reading and reflecting on quotes feels like. So about a minute, so you can feel what 60 seconds looks like. For just 5 quotes, usually picking the quote that's your favorite, you don't need to give as much time. Having an interesting conversation that has some depth means you might need to give them a little bit more. So if I just said pick your favorite quote and talk about it at your table, many of you would find the reason why as you were talking. But if I said, I want you to get up and find somebody else who loves that same quote, and I want you to dig into why you love it, you might need another minute to have a more articulate answer for what about that applies to your role in talent development and training and learning. Okay, we're not going to do 8 brains to 1, but I'm going to tell you how it works because it's great if we have more time. It's not the size of our group, it's simply our time constraints. When people walk in, remember this is opening, so you just walked in, I would say, come up with adjectives and description words, brainstorm very quickly for about 60 seconds, words that you associate with, and then I would give you our topic. So I might say training, great training, or if it's collaboration, I might say, what words would you use to describe collaboration? Or an effective team. So whatever your topic is for that learning experience, they're brainstorming all of their words. And then the way 8 brains to 1 works, first people pair up, and they're taking their list together, and it's not just for efficiency's sake, they're comparing to say, ooh, I don't have that one, that's interesting, tell me about that. So they're having a good conversation, but then they have to figure out they can only take the words they have in common into the next pairing. So now they've whittled down, we just had these 3 words that we both thought associate with collaboration, and now we're gonna find another pair, and we're only bringing our shared words. So now what 4 people thought, all that they have in common, and then you do that 1 more time, so you have 8 people, and you come up with, all right, what words do they have in common? And what you're looking for is, we all see things differently. Is there something we do agree is a shared definition for that? So when I do this, I'm not picky about, if we have synonyms and we are okay with those synonyms, we can pick one and keep it in our pair. If we're like super outliers, that can't come with us. So it's a neat way for people to hear other people's perspective, while also looking for what is the common ground that we have, the shared definition. Up and moving, talking to new people, related to your topic and your learning, low stakes, pretty fast, like less than 10 minutes. And then we can come back and we can air out, okay, this is the real definition of collaboration, and does this tie with you? And who had something that was kind of like, that doesn't work for me, and you can dig into your content because their brains are warmed to that topic. Your last one, I want you to remember, you're coming in, it's an unofficial start, it's on screen for you. I also use this as transitions in the middle of workshops. Can you unscramble these words? Don't shout them out. Somebody's gonna ruin it because they're like so brilliant that the rest of us can't keep up and they just solved all 6 of them. Try to unscramble 1. Like, I'll give you a free book if you have all 6. Is there a super genius in here? Will you come up and get the book while also telling us the 6 words, and then I'll put the screen on for us. Amazing. I don't think I would have 1 if I hadn't made them. What is the top left? Cheesy. No cheesy icebreakers, okay? What is the bottom left? Connection. Okay, the middle, meaningful. Okay, top right. Maximize. I like that we're rallying behind you, okay? Middle right. Growth, and lower right. Amazing. Thank you. You crushed it. love word scrambles because they're super fast. You pick words that tie to your content. So if we were doing this in our session and this was the opener that I'd chosen when you walked in today, then we could talk about how much we hate things that are cheesy, and we're trying to maximize every single minute of people's time, and it should be meaningful, related to our content. And we want people to be connected, but not in an overly vulnerable way. And we could dig in to these words, but you leaned into that screen to try to solve those puzzles. And it's fast enough that the people who hate word games, which would be my husband, who would be like, ugh, this is worse than the bingo card. It only takes a couple minutes. So it's a brain transition, and it captivates a lot of people, and it's fast enough for the people that this isn't their jam. ChatGPT or your favorite AI, robot is your friend. You say, hey, will you scramble these words for a workshop for me? And it does. So it's not like I literally used to handwrite it and try to scramble the words. It took forever. And then I remembered ChatGPT. And then you get a slide template that you love that's just text boxes where you paste the regular word, then you duplicate the slide and you replace the regular word with the one that you just got from ChatGPT. So creating that word scramble took me 30 minutes today. Super fast related to your content. Speaking of words, if you are giving more of a talk and less of a workshop, your opening line matters just as much as the opening activity. So if you can open with, my goal is to convince you, or I have this great fear. Or do y'all know that song? That's gonna be our theme song today. Let me tell you why. If you have an epic opening line, people will lean in and stay with you. So I have a book that it's my own resource guide of what I use when I'm like, I need a better opener. I need a better closing activity. I need a better way to have this discussion group be meaningful. It's my resource guide that I just figured I would publish for everybody else. One chapter is Start Strong, and there are 17 opening lines from great talks that you can reuse. So if you need more of this, they're in the book, but if you don't, they're on the slide deck that's loaded. This slide is in our AD mobile app. So book is an option, but you've got the slides as well. I'll put this back up in a moment. ATD really has asked that you would give feedback on each session, and I'm a participant learning just like you, and I know it's 5:30 and there's fun things to do and dinner. Somebody put I'm hungry on one of their cards, and I was like, I can't read this. The whole room is gonna be like, so am I, and now we're all hungry. But inside the app with each session, there's a place that you can give feedback, and they say it's really fast and short, or you can scan that QR code. If you would do that, that tells them whether I get to come back or not. It also really lets them know, is this the content that you need? Did this meet your expectations, or was this not what you were expecting? So that feedback is very valuable. Would love, absolutely love if you would tell them what you got from this session. You can scan the QR code, or you can go to the mobile app. And I'm gonna leave this slide up. I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. I love learning from cool people, and the most brilliant people in talent development are at this conference. So I would love to be able to learn from you and be connected if LinkedIn is where you go, if that's your jam. And I'm gonna stick around if you want to chat, but I also know that it's 5:30 in DC and there's cool things to do. So thank you all for giving up some time. This has been a treat. Bye, virtual.